Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Michelle Malonzo, and I work with The Word, a storytelling sanctuary, who's co-sponsoring this event. The Word is a nonprofit organization working to build inclusivity in the publishing industry. Our mission is to promote voices from underserved communities and diverse backgrounds, to honor the stories of those who faced adversity and injustice, and provide a sanctuary space where we can all see ourselves in literature. To learn more about the work we do, you can check us out at thewordfordiversity.org. We are thrilled to be hosting the writers here tonight in partnership with our dear friends at Duende District. And representing Duende is the founder, my dear friend, colleague, and comrade, Angela Maria Spring. Hello, Angela.
Hello. How lucky am I to see your beautiful face twice in 1 week? Thank you so much, Michelle. Hello. Good evening, everybody. Once again, a huge thank you to our wonderful friends at The Word. We are always grateful to have the opportunity to partner with you. These past 2 years have been amazing. We've done some amazing virtual events, and tonight will be no different. Thank you so much to everybody in our community for joining us tonight. Again, I'm Angela Maria Spring, the owner of Duende District. We're a collaborative pop-up bookstore for and by people of color where all are welcome. Currently, we have pop-up locations in Washington, D.C. and Albuquerque, New Mexico. And if you're new to what we do, the cornerstone of the Duende Project is about the collective, the community, and creation and decolonization of literary spaces by and for people of color. So tonight we are so excited to welcome Ashley K. Stoyanov Ojeda, author of Jefa In Training, the Business Startup Toolkit for Entrepreneurial and Creative Women. And she's going to be in conversation with myself and our other special guest, Paulette Piñero, to talk about lessons we've learned while building our businesses, which is really great because I just realized that at the end of this month is Duende's 5-year anniversary. I was like, oh my God, I should plan something and celebrate. So this is definitely an excellent time to be talking about lessons learned. I'd also like to send our love to my really good friend, Noel Santos, owner of Lit Bar in the Bronx, who due to a family emergency was unable to join us. So tonight we'll begin with Ashley telling us about her wonderful new book, which I highly recommend to anybody thinking about starting a business, or even if you started a business, you've been 5 years in business. I found her book incredibly helpful. So everybody should have this book. I feel like it is a handbook that is absolutely essential. So I'm just so grateful for her writing it and joining us tonight. And we will drop a link in the chat so that you can purchase your own copy as well on our bookshop.com page. And if anyone has questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. And let's learn a little more about Ashley and Paulette. So Paulette Piñero is an award-winning entrepreneur, writer, and speaker dedicated to clear paths for systemically overlooked leaders so they can turn their purpose into impact. Through her company, Lead Media, Paulette elevates and advances the mission of social impact organizations to close the leadership and opportunity gap for all. Using an equity and justice-focused approach, her leadership coaching and DEI management consulting services strive to create a world where leadership is diverse, purpose-driven, and joyful. And Ashley K. Stoyanov Ojeda is an author, business development coach, and socialpreneur. Originally from Queens, New York City, and born to a Mexican mom and a French-American father, Ashley's career started in the music industry in 2012, working at major record labels, publishers, and venues. After relocating to Portland, Oregon, post-college, she created her own network for local women songwriters, now a national organization that has been featured in the Recording Academy called #WomenCrushMusic. Since the rapid growth of her organization, she has dedicated her career to creating opportunities and developing businesses and communities of underrepresented entrepreneurs through her coaching and consulting, and has become known as the business hada madrina, the business fairy godmother, which is very cool. Ashley joined the Mujerista team in 2020 to help create and grow the Mujerista Network, a digital network dedicated to empowering and celebrating the next generation of Latinas making an impact on la cultura. In February 2022, she released her debut book, Jefa In Training, through Mango Publishing. And Ashley currently resides in Portland, Oregon. So let's take it away. Ashley, let's learn about your book.
Thank you so much, Angela. That was an awesome introduction. And thank you for having me. And also, an early congrats to the anniversary of Duende District. That's an amazing accomplishment. 5 years is a super milestone. So, yes, we should plan something. I'm going to help you plan something because I'm super excited for you. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. This is the official launch week of my hybrid book tour, which is something I don't think I ever thought I would say in my life. So thank you so much for being here on this journey with me. I am super grateful for the opportunity to share this book with all of you and also to be sharing this experience with some amazing jefas. So to tell you a little bit about Jefa In Training, it's the first ever Spanglish business launching toolkit and workbook for Latinas. And I wrote this book because I started my first venture in entrepreneurship in 2016, and I was kind of newly out of college. I did not go to business school. So when I first saw the need to create this community that I was looking for, which later became my nonprofit organization, I looked to every business book under the sun, and I couldn't find one that was written by someone who I could connect with on a personal level. Some of these books were amazing. Some of these books just maybe weren't what I was looking for. But at the end of the day, I really felt the need to write something that was for us. And I put a proposal together in 2019, and I got many rejections, and I kind of tabled it for a little bit because I started feeling the good old imposter syndrome that I'm sure we will get into at some point during today's conversation. And at the end of 2020, I accidentally met an editor for Mango Publishing. And at the time, I was working to build the Mujerista community, which is the online network for the Mujerista digital publication, which is dedicated to advancing the future generation of Latinas' personal and business growth. And I met so many amazing Latinas who felt the same need that I did. And I asked them, where do you get your information? How are you growing your business? What resources do you use? And we all agree that there wasn't really anything out there that was made by us for us. Something that was very in culture, which is what a lot of people are saying about the book. And thus Jefa In Training was born. And it's what I really am so proud of is that it's a collaborative effort. Yes, the book is highly based around my experiences as a founder and as a business development coach, but I also brought in these experts, other Latina founders who have built very successful businesses and have a lot of great knowledge to share some of their tips along the way. And one of them is here with us today, and I'll introduce her in a little bit. But the other really amazing part about Jefa In Training is that it's actually a workbook as well. And I really wanted to create a workbook because I wanted it to be an engaging experience for the readers. And I know that starting a business can be scary, especially when you get to the finance aspect of it or the legal aspect of it. It can be really overwhelming. And I really wanted to put it out there in a way that seemed approachable and less scary. And I didn't want it to seem like a boring textbook. So it's actually written in the same way that I'm speaking to you right now, the same way that I would speak to my clients as if you're a friend that I've known for 20 years. And, there are little writing prompts in each chapter, and there's a worksheet at the end of each chapter. So you're really essentially building your business plan as you are going through the book. And so I think that makes it a very unique experience and maybe a little bit different from the books that you might have read before. And I am just so proud of all of the collaborators, and I think that it's a super super helpful guide for anyone, whether you are new in business or have had business for a little bit. Yesterday, at the virtual launch party, we had Vanessa Santos, who is the new co-CEO of We All Grow Latina. She said that she is a 3-time founder, and she's worked with many entrepreneurs, and she found use of the book. She found a lot of value in it. She said she was taking notes while she was reading it because sometimes we just need a reminder of things too, and the book is built for that. I wrote it very intentionally so that you can read it start to finish, but you can also just take what you need from it. If you need to revamp your sales strategy, open up the sales chapter. If you want to work on your community marketing strategy, open up the community section. So you really can just like take what you need and leave the rest if you feel like you've got the other stuff down. And you can also revisit it, for years to come. And I hope that people use it that way. And today we're really lucky because we have Paulette Piñero here. She has been an incredible friend, and she has been a client of mine and also a collaborator on this book, where she shares in the chapter Ponte las pilas all about leadership tips as entrepreneurs. When I started my first organization, I went from being a team of 1 to a team of 50 plus volunteers in about a year. I had never managed anyone before. And I had to learn a lot so quickly about how to manage people, how to represent myself as a thought leader. And I wish that I had Paulette in my life way before to kind of guide me through this process, because that can also be scary. So I would like to bring Paulette up now to talk a little bit about what she does, what she's working on, what she shared in the book, and also, her favorite parts about the book too.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for inviting me and allowing me to be part of this amazing book. I have my copy here. I have it with me now all the time. I show people. I'm a mom, so like I'm doing mom things when I go to places. I'm like, do you know my amiga? Like, she wrote this book. Do you have a business? Do you need it? Do you need a copy? Do you need me to pull Amazon? Do you need me to pull like all the Black and Latinx owned bookstores that I know? This is where we're buying it. Do you need me to order it right for you right now? So thank you. And your story really resonates with me because I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I've been in the United States and Massachusetts for the last 10 years. And I went into work full time very early in my career. I had my son at age 20, and the hustle, there was this little human that depended on me. And I went to college for social work, and I loved doing human service work, but I really loved and had a passion for leadership and developing teams. And throughout my career, I read every book that I could get my hands into around leadership, people management, strategic planning. I signed up for boot camps and courses. And every time I would either be one of the few or only person of color, I would be one of the few or only women in the room. And the content was what I was reading everywhere else. It was not about what I needed. It was not a values-driven content. It was not content that talked about Latinidad and going into a room where you were the only Latina, where English is not my first language. So I love that your book is in Spanglish, because it's how I talk to my children, how I talk to my friends, how I talk with you. That really resonated with me because I had never seen that. And there isn't anything else like your book right now, where we can be fully authentically ourselves and have a reminder that we deserve to be in the spaces that we're in, and that you might feel that in that room, whether it's the boardroom or your local chamber of commerce or your job and even your Slack group at work, you might feel like you're the only jefa in that space. But this book will remind all of the jefas and all of the líderes that they're not the only one. They're not the only one. And that if Ashley, the business Hada Madrina, wrote this book for us and feature other jefas doing this work and creating transformational content and being líderes and jefas in different spaces with different backgrounds and with different experiences, if they are here, it's because there's someone else out there going through the same things and they were able to do it authentically. So yo también me merezco eso. So should I. And that's what I love. And in the chapter that I collaborated with you, I talk about the tools that I give my clients through leadership development and coaching services on how to not just be a great jefa, a great leader, and manage people really well, but also how to do it authentically and how to build your professional success team. Because I don't know about everyone else, but I was raised in Puerto Rico, and my abuelita, my mama, they're amazing and the best, but it was always about calladita te ves más bonita, stay quiet, smile and nod, and keep hustling. And I realized that that was not the way that I want to show up as a leader, but also I can't get anywhere like that. So that's why I wanted to write in the book that we collaborated in the chapter about perfectionism, about showing up authentically, and about building your success team, bringing your other jefas, your other líderes, the mentors, your sponsors to help you grow as a leader, because it's a community effort.
I 100% agree. And I was just looking because I wanted to kind of summarize the tips that you give before we bring on our other co-hosts of today's event. And if you want to read more, you will all have to purchase the book from the Duende District's bookshop. But I just want to summarize the 6 tips that Paulette gives about developing your leadership mindset. The first one is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm not going to read everything that she says because, I'm not going to give everything away. But to summarize, as when we decide to start businesses, there's a lot that we have to learn how to do. And often it's very, very quickly. And, we cannot grow if we do not get uncomfortable. There are a lot of things that we're not going to be familiar with, that we're doing for the first time, and we kind of just need to get through that. And Paulette teaches you how to do that in this section. The next one is to be open to change and be ready to pivot. And I think if we've learned anything over the last couple of years with COVID and affecting every industry under the sun, is that we all need to be ready to pivot. The next one is never forget that your time is money, period. I don't think that one that one requires any explanation, but punto, yeah, that's it. The next one is get over perfectionism. I think that a lot of us Latinas probably struggle with that. I think even in your LinkedIn bio, you say you're a recovering perfectionist.
My LinkedIn, everywhere. My business card says recovering perfectionist. And part of why I do that is because I want to put my values first and let people know from the beginning that I am a leader, and remind them. But at the same time, if you're looking for perfection, it's not me. If you're looking for authenticity and someone who cares about the work that they do, then be cool. I'm your person.
Snaps for that one. Okay, 2 more tips. Set boundaries. That's a super important one that I wish you had been my leadership by the Madrina many years ago, because that's a huge one that I struggled with. The perfectionism, not so much, but the boundaries one, not only setting boundaries with other people, but also with yourself. I feel like that's something that doesn't get talked enough about. And then the last one, of course, which you were just mentioning, is building your board of advisors. which, it's super important to have a support system. And I think going into any kind of venture, business, podcast, whatever, going into one of those without a support system is hard. And that's ultimately, I think, why I hit a lot of roadblocks early on in my journey, because I felt like I had to do everything, and that if I asked for help, that I would be seen as a failure, or be looked at like, this girl doesn't know what she's doing. She asked me for this and this, but we cannot be expected to know everything. And that kind of leads us into the broader discussion that we're going to be talking about now with Angela and Michelle, that like, what are the lessons learned, right?
There's so much in there. Thank you both. I have my list of questions, but I'm sitting here like, so much to talk about. Like, I want to talk about boundaries. I want to talk about the fact that culturally, for us, especially as women or, femme, Latinx, we're not taught any boundaries, at home, and certainly not at work. I think about like, I'm constantly having to relearn the lesson of setting boundaries, whether it's working for myself or, Duende came from a place where I finally learned to set boundaries and realized I was in an unhealthy, toxic work situation. And I didn't want that for myself, but it was also hard for me because I was the manager and I was seeing my Black and brown booksellers being treated in the same way, and that hurt me deeply inside. And I wanted something where we could have a space for us, but where we could celebrate these amazing people that I've worked with at so many bookstores. Like, I've worked at bookstores in Albuquerque, New York City, Washington, D.C., and we're always the brightest, doing the most work, amazing, and always the ones left behind, and so I want to talk more about boundaries, because I want to hear more from both of you, like what are, as you've done this work and as you're growing, what are some of the lessons, the boundary lessons that you've learned along the way for yourself that we can like pass on to others?
Oof. Well, that's a good question. So for me, I think two things in particular. Boundary setting with other people, I think, also really connects to boundary setting with yourself. One of the things that I've struggled with a lot, which has led to a lot of burnout in my career, is that I've felt like I've always had to be available for people, because if not, they think that I'm not doing a good job. I also have felt that if I'm not always working, that I'm not working hard enough. And I think that comes from a lot of things, right? I grew up in New York, so go kind of city, which is why I moved to Portland, because it's way more chill. But those lack of boundaries with other people, and also probably stemming from the boundaries that I have with myself, have led to, like I said, a lot of burnout. And I don't want that for anyone, because it's not true. You don't have to be available all the time, and you don't have to set that expectation for people. You should actually tell them the opposite, list your working hours in your signature if you have to. Those are probably the two big ones for me that were hard, that honestly I am still working on them.
For me, I went from being a teenager to going to college to being the mom of a child with disabilities, and there was no transition. There was no wait time. And it was very difficult for me as a young mom to build boundaries, and especially for my son who needed me so much while he was young, and then going into a career and building a career. I took a lot of the trauma that I had growing up, and then as a young mom, and experiencing at a very early age domestic abuse, and with my first partner. So it was always like everything blurred. And I was able to build boundaries and step up as a leader and grow professionally, but personally, I had no boundaries. I was everything for everyone else and never for myself. And I went from this constant burnout to let's take vacation to burnout and take vacation and burnout and take vacation and trying to do it all. And, this belief that the only way I could be a leader and the only way I could be a good mom was by doing it all. And it wasn't until 2020 that I got sick with COVID and almost lost my life. That, well, I was in ICU sitting down and I had to talk to my family and say goodbye. That I was like, what have I done? What have I done with the 33 years of my life? And realizing that if I would have put boundaries for myself and the people that I love, then I would have been able to follow my dreams. I would have been able to do so much more. I would have been the leader that I wanted to see inside and outside of my home, inside and outside of the work. And I made a commitment that if I left that hospital, I would try something different, because what I had tried for 33 years had left me burned out and overwhelmed and sad and fulfilled in my resume, but not outside. And through therapy, through building a support system, through asking for help, and then having honest conversations with my family and my loved ones, they had actually been trying to build boundaries for me not to overdo it. And I just kept overdoing it because that's all that I knew. So that's why I when I say hello and present myself, one of the first things that I say is I'm a recovering perfectionist, because this is something that I continuously work on, that I intentionally do. I tell all my clients that I don't respond to emails during the weekends, that I take 48 hours to respond to emails. And sometimes I just schedule them. I see them and I schedule them. But by honoring myself, I am honoring the people that I work with. By providing that example, I am giving permission to other women of color, to other Latinas, to do the same. So it's a work in progress, like Ashley, but I can see how happy and fulfilling and transformational just setting boundaries has been for me. And I just want to teach everyone how to do it.
Well, I'm so glad that you made it through that. That must have been harrowing. And both of just beautiful wisdom from both of you. I mean, I think a way to think of boundaries for us is boundaries are a hug to ourselves. We can't do anything for anybody unless we're taking care of ourselves. I mean, I really feel like the pandemic taught, I too was just so overwhelmed, and I had, my son's only 2. And so when the pandemic hit, I was just emails would go unanswered for days, and I just had to teach myself to be okay with that. And then people had to learn to be okay with that too. Things like that. I feel like it's just so important, and it's hard. And mental health, like Paulette said, the way I was able to work through my stuff is just going back to therapy, and I cannot recommend mental health, taking care of your mental health as much as possible, because burnout, as somebody told me, because I still keep burning out. I'm still working on my boundaries. But somebody was like, you burn out. If you burn out completely, then you can't do anything for anybody, let alone yourself. And I feel like that's a huge thing. And the perfectionism, right? It goes in there. Just all the mash. All right, let's pivot. Let's pivot. Just
my dear, I love this.
Boundaries. Go to therapy. Love you all.
And thank you all for coming.
That's right. If you don't need anything else, just take this book. It's got like
Read it, go to therapy, you got it.
So I want to talk about, because it actually touches, you talk about this, and I feel like it's so important when we think about the building blocks of our businesses. And one of the things that I learned about years ago that actually did become foundational is our why. Our why we are doing what we're doing and how it is. And I found over the years that my why has not only stayed the same, but also evolved. And I would love to hear from both of you about, what your whys were at the beginning and how you've watched them grow and evolve.
Yeah, I think that that is 100% true. Like what I've recently learned in the last couple of years is that my why has always been the same, but I don't think I ever actually like had it down on paper anywhere. And now that I do, I've seen how my whole life has kind of led up to everything that I'm doing right now and how it all connects. Because I think, it's kind of hard to explain my journey sometimes, because I started out in music, and then I was in community marketing, and then I was in tech and all this stuff, and now I'm writing books apparently. And people are just like, how did you do all that? And I'm like, well, if you really take a look at everything that I was doing, it's always been with the intention of creating opportunities for other people like me. Like, I started performing as a singer-songwriter. I started out in the music industry. Even when I was doing that throughout college and after college, I would always want to bring new artists who had not been on stage before to perform with me. Like, I was always curating shows, and I was just like, cool, I already have all these connections and I'm grateful for them. So now I kind of want to just like create these opportunities for other women, for other Latinas, for other creatives. And, then that kind of evolved into Woman Crush Music. And then after that, I started seeing more creative entrepreneurs who were musicians who wanted to start businesses or blogs or whatever, and help them do that through my coaching. And that's how I started coaching. And then I saw that there were so many like new majority owned startups that needed help with community building. And that's something I had experience in. So that's what I started doing then, because I just wanted to help create more opportunities for them. And then finally we get to the Mujerista and the book, and that why of creating opportunities for other people like me, women, Latinas, creatives, first gen, children of immigrants. Like, that's my why forever. And if someone asks me, like, what do you see yourself in doing in 10 years? I honestly will tell you, I don't know. There are so many possibilities. But I do know that it will connect to this why that I have. Whatever it is that I'll be doing in 10 years, it will be to do this. And it's why a lot of entrepreneurs that I coach that are like just starting their entrepreneurial journey, they're just like, oh, like, I want to start my business, but I'm also looking at this full-time job. Like, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, figure out your personal why. If it fits into your why, take the job if you want to take the job. If you're in the position where you can not take the job because it doesn't fit into your personal why, don't take the job. And I think that the sooner that we can figure out what that why is, the more opportunities will open up for us. Or at least that's what happened for me. I don't know what your experience is, Paulette.
My husband the same. I started working when I was like 13, and by 16 I was working part-time with nonprofits in Puerto Rico. And I've always had a passion for helping and guiding folks. That's why I went into social work. Identifying exactly what the individual needs and what they need to thrive within their ecosystem. That is something that I've always loved. And that's what I did in my career as a strategic planner in business development and nonprofits, is how can we take our the benefits and the impact that our stakeholders are looking for and our communities are looking for, and then develop programs that serve them, rather than a funder that does not represent the community telling us what to do. Let's go and partner with the communities and talk to people to see what they're looking for, and we can match the impact and the services and the programs that we have to that, and then we'll find someone to fund it. And it was this belief of community, of understanding that individuals are an important piece of systems and our environments and our familias and our comunidades. And then what do the individual people in our communities need to be able to thrive, so we can all get together and thrive as a community and have agency to make decisions about what happens in our communities. That's what I did with my career. And then as I grew in my career and went from manager to senior director and VP and all these positions, then I was seeing that the representation of women of color got smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was very aware that I was getting these positions because, number one, I was capable, I have the knowledge, I have the experience. But second of all, I was the easy choice. They made assumptions of me being, I'm a mom, I'm married to a man, so she's not from the LGBTQ community. And then I would just go and be like, well, I'm a bisexual woman, so what are we doing for our gente? Or even though I am a woman of color and I'm from Puerto Rico, I am not an immigrant. So if we don't have to deal with, Paulette not needing sponsorship, and then I'd be like, well, I might not, but here's how I advocate. This is what we need to do. This is how we can create equitable and just spaces for all of our staff. And then I have light skin. So even though I'm a woman of color and I might have indigenous features, I was the easy pick. And little did they know that this disruptor change maker was here to amplify and elevate and move. So other people that also deserve those spaces were there. And that's when I switched just working for programs for our communities to building the leadership and leaders within my own team and other teams, and helping them build their leadership skills while also being themselves, stop code switching and make sure that they were thriving as leaders. I used to teach my staff to have salary negotiations with me 2 months before their performance reviews. So when, yes, my bosses were always like, how would your team is very they know how to negotiate and they're so prepared and they're the highest paid team. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. So I loved that, and I had done all these courses and work and read all the books, and I started writing my own framework, and this is what you should do it and the way that you should approach it when you're the only person of color in the room and your staff is not representative, and here's how to navigate it. So when I wanted to do this at a bigger scale, I decided to launch my business, and that's why I do leadership development for systemically overlooked leaders and DEI consulting for nonprofit organizations to continue to build that mindset and that ecosystem that I'm helping individuals and helping my community, but with a focus on turning their purpose, their why, into impact. I'm all about making ish happen.
I love that. That's wonderful. Both of you. Just so much goodness in there. Kind of on a related topic, because this just came to me as we're talking about this. I feel like we live in a capitalistic society that has really pushed the gig economy and, turning our side hustle, our hobbies into side hustles, things like that. And I really do think that the why, and speaking to Paulette, when you're writing about authenticity in Ashley's book, and if you like, do you encounter people who are just feeling pressured to start a business, even if they don't want to start a business, but because everything in our society is telling them that we have to monetize every single thing that we do?
Yeah, and it's hard to kind of weed out the noise. I was just actually thinking to myself, like, I need to find some new hobbies that I cannot monetize. And I think that's the reason that I've always loved going to dance classes, because the truth is I'm not a great dancer. I mean, I'm not bad. But I wouldn't consider myself to be in the running to like be a professional dancer. But one of the reasons that I've always loved going to dance classes is not because I'm like fantastic, but because it gets me out of my head enough, and it's not something I'm trying to monetize. And I think that we all need one of those things in our life, or a few of those things. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but I think that we need a hobby. What was it? I read something that was just like, we need something that like makes us money, something that makes us happy. And then there was another thing that, of course, I'm not remembering. I'm very bad at recalling things that I see on the internet. But anyway, the point is that I think that we all need to make space for what makes us happy, but also something that we can just enjoy. And that's it, and not have to like lose sleep over it because we're trying to make money from it.
Yeah, in my experience, it has been, especially with my clients, they're like, I'm ready to be a consultant. I'm ready to do this. And I'm like, that's great. I'm not here to crush dreams. But let's talk about not just why you're passionate about this, but what does it give you? And I ask them, what's the goal? Great. What does it give you? Why do you want to do this? What, 5 times? They hate it. I'm sorry. Sorry, clients. They hate it. But what we come out of that exercise is that at the end, they're like, well, I'm looking for peace of mind. Oh, so will a business give you that? And it might be a business, but it might be having the confidence and clarity to negotiate their salaries, or moving into another role that gives them more flexibility. So going back into, what is this business? What is this hobby giving me? And when you can actually name exactly what it gives you and how it will impact other areas of your life, it gets clearer and easier to say, this is something that I want to pursue because, like Ashley was saying, because I love, and it will, fill my my buckets of joy. Or this is something that I want to pursue because it will fill my buckets of joy. And this is what I want to do every day. If you're not sure, ask yourself, what would you do every day for free if money was no object? And once you answer that, you can decide, this is something that just brings me joy, or this is something that I really want to pursue because I can see myself spending most of my day doing it. And I get hives when I hear like side hustles, and I'm like, no, because I believe in passive income, and that is great, but I have this belief that white supremacy culture tells people of color to be constantly hustling. And it's like, oh, you're negotiating for salaries, you're quitting your jobs, then I need you to have 3 businesses now. So asking yourself those questions to really identify if this fills your bucket, if this is something that you want to do and pursue, and that you have not only a success team, but that you're building the boundaries and that you're really doing this to build something for yourself, then you can make a decision if this is really just following a trend or feeling pressure or something that really builds you up.
Wise. I completely agree, Paulette. Like, white supremacy culture absolutely tells people of color that we need to constantly be doing things because white supremacy culture is constantly taking things from us. and we're constantly having to catch up. So that's really good. I also love that you do salary negotiation. Like if I had somebody that I was able to walk through salary negotiations with, like, it just would have been so much better for everything. Well, now I've been doing my own thing for 5 years, but yeah, even still, one of the things that my husband forced me to do is have an hourly rate, even as a bookseller. And that changed my entire view of how I do everything. And so I'm at conferences saying things like, put an hourly rate on it. I mean, our problem is, the publishers don't give us a fair deal. And so it's almost impossible for us to make money off of selling books. And that's the crux of the issue, ultimately, for everything. So it's just an aside. It's like I'm going to do a really difficult thing in terms of like funding and things like that. Actually, I have a question about that. Let's go into that, because this is important. So you've got your why, and you've started your beginning. You've got your Jefa book. So you're able to like walk through that, and you think you've got it put together. Let's talk about the things, especially because this is a book for Latinas, and that lack of access to startup funds for Black and Brown people, where so many of us are unable to secure loans, even if we have good business plans or good credit. And then we end up needing to create crowdfunding campaigns, which is, I had to do a crowdfunding campaign. One of the reasons Noelle, I was going to grill her because she has, I think, one of the most successful bookstore crowdfunding campaigns ever. But a crowdfunding campaign is a whole job in and of itself. It's exhausting. It's really stressful. So that's just like that, but that's been, and it's also getting really tired. When I first did my crowdfunding campaign, it was 5 years ago. And I think there was a lot more movement toward that kind of thing. But now everybody has like a crowdfunding campaign for their medical debt, just to try to make their rent, and so it's so oversaturated. So that's also like a really tricky option. And then, maybe you have to look at like, are there possible grants, things like that. This is a lot of, these things take an enormous amount of time and resources, which many of us don't really have. Like Paulette, you mentioned your mother, I'm a mother, it's just like, do you have any specific lessons or advice to share about this issue?
I think this is so funny that that you brought this up, because it's something that Paulette and I were talking this morning about. And
Yes.
I think that this is really the importance of one of the main points that Paulette makes, is that you need to have your board of advisors, because the more people who you talk to about what you're doing, the more your network opens, and you never know who the people can connect you with. Mm-hmm. And I think that what I was afraid of at first was, well, how am I going to talk about this if like I don't have the money to make this happen yet? But the truth is, if we don't talk about what we want to do, there is no way that we're going to get the money to make it happen. And don't be afraid to put it out there. Like, find somebody to help you make a solid pitch deck. If you don't know anyone and you're watching, I'm always here to help. Business a la Madrina, at your service.
She helped me make a beautiful pitch deck that I show everyone. So yes.
And and then just like make a list. I had Paulette do it too. Make a list of like 20 people that you will reach out to tomorrow to set up a meeting to show them your deck. At the very least, you will get feedback about what your idea is missing, what you can add to it, what you can further develop, who you need to talk to get more input or data or whatever it is that you need to be able to get the money. But you need to be talking about it all the time.
Yeah. I spent 16 years in the nonprofit field, and I would talk about my programs with anyone. I was like, anyone has money and anyone can be my funder. and for my project and my program. So I would go to speaking events, constantly talking like, hi, my name is Paulette Piñero. I work here. This is what I do. Are you interested? Donate now. And when I went into entrepreneurship, Ashley was talking about this earlier, this imposter syndrome, this belief that, well, if you're an entrepreneur, then that means that you got it all figured out. And even though I was open to collaborating and building my network and building my professional board of advisors, it took me time to do that mindset shift of it's okay to not have it all figured out right now. It's okay to launch ugly and start lean and start with web service. And now I'm in the space where I am scaling my business so I can serve more folks, that I can build more revenue, but that I can do more impactful work. So it really takes that shift in your mindset of you have to talk to everyone about your why, how you do it, your values, and what you're passionate about constantly. So Ashley is my business coach, and part of why I reached out to her was exactly for that. I said, I have a great business and I love my business, but there's something bigger that I want to do now and I need support. And writing down those people and talking to folks about this every single day. I go into conversations with folks. I talk to clients and say, hey, do you have time to look at this pitch deck that I have for this new platform that I'm launching? They're like, of course, no problem. I send emails to my my partners and mailing and former client list with my pitch deck. You don't have to hoard information to be successful. The more you put it out there, the more you share what you're passionate about, the more you will attract the right opportunities for you. So that went from, oh my God, is this gonna work? Is this new platform? Like, this is big, I'm freaking out, to now I have people calling me and scheduling time with me of how can I fund this? How can I sponsor this? How can I connect you with this? Here's a program. You're gonna get interviewed. You're gonna get funding, but you have to not just talk about it constantly and activate your network, your success team, but then talk about it with passion because you believe it and you know you can do it. It's just be your authentic self. I curse a lot. I used to be scared about that. I sometimes start talking Spanish and then I forget. And now I do it unapologetically and people love it because that's what attracts the right people. And the people that don't accept that, then they're actually doing me a favor. That is not the people that I'm best positioned to support.
Absolutely. Agree with both of you completely, especially constantly talking about it also makes you accountable to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think we forget that, if we're not saying it out loud to people, if we're not, we have to say that you're going to do the thing before. If it's all in your head, then it's easy to keep it all in your head. So absolutely, I completely agree. And those leads and you're also putting out that energy, right, of who you want to attract to your business. And I love that. That's so wonderful. So I'm going to, we've only got a few minutes left. This is such a wonderful conversation. You both are just, obviously you're amazing at what you do. So anybody watching, if you have even an idea and you don't know, obviously Paulette and Ashley are like here for you. So one thing, and I think, let's see. So I would love to know if you have any lessons or advice for those who might be building something that's completely new, that hasn't maybe even been done before, or this is like I just as an example, what I've run up against a lot is that since I don't have a physical brick and mortar bookstore and I'm not seeking to build one, at least not currently, it can be hard for people to understand more broadly what exactly I'm doing, which is why I call it like the Duende experiment, experimental bookstore, that kind of thing. But as we were talking about before, I will say that those who get what I'm doing, they really get it and are extremely loyal and supportive, and they have been there the whole way through. We have such a rich, diverse community, but it's always something I'm thinking about. So I'm wondering if either of you have any advice or have worked with anybody who are doing something similar that you've learned some lessons through.
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't underestimate the power of community and partnerships, especially for what you're doing. I'm sure you have already learned that. It's been 5 years, you know? So I think that when people start businesses, I was talking to someone yesterday who's been in business for 3 years, and I asked her, have you ever put together like a partnership strategy? And she goes, no. And I'm like, you've never collaborated with anyone before? She goes, no. And I'm like, this is going to completely change your business. There's a really useful exercise that one of my startup teams showed me, and it's like a partnership mind map that I think I've done with a lot of my clients at this point. And it's to make a map of benefits of partnering with you, benefits of partnering with other people, so what you would want out of a partnership, what makes a good partner for you, and motivations of partners working with you. So why would they work with you over someone else? And listing like do like a rapid fire kind of test for yourself, right? Like do it in like 10 or 15 minutes, see how many ideas you come up with, and then kind of see what the main points are. So that you can really figure out like what that strategy is and what kind of partners you're looking for, and then just reach out to them. I think that collaboration can get us so far. I do not believe in competition. I don't believe that anyone can start the same exact business as you. Like, I think that that's close to impossible, because everyone has different knowledge and comes from different backgrounds and different experiences, and looks at those experiences in different ways, that everyone has so much to bring to the table. That I think that the moment that you can identify your strengths and the strengths of someone else, like, magic can happen. So the key is in partnerships, and I think the most successful partnerships are so out of the box, right? Like, they're so out of the box. So yes, I will leave you with that.
That's beautiful. I don't believe in competition. Everybody write that down, because it's so true. Oh, Paulette.
Yeah, there are 2 tenets of innovation: is something that people need and something people will use. And a lot of folks who are launching something new say, well, people are not going to use it, or I don't know if people are going to use it. If you're not sure if people are going to use it, it's because you haven't found your people. So identifying exactly who the right client for you is. And people get scared, but everyone's my client. Then ask yourself this: who are you best positioned to support with what you do or what you sell? That is your differentiator. And like Asha was saying, by maximizing your strengths and identifying who are you best positioned to support, that is so clear that you know their objections, that you understand their values, that you know exactly where they hang out and what they're looking for, then you'll get very clear on what solution you can provide to those folks. So the books and the very expensive business books will say that innovation are those 2 tenets, and they say, well, if people don't need it, then you shouldn't create it or you shouldn't sell it. I completely disagree. If that is what's holding you back, then that means that you need to find your gente. That means that you want to get extremely clear of who your people are. And to push you even further, how much is it going to take you to sell to the right client versus trying to sell to 100 wrong clients, the people that you're not best positioned to support? So by selling to the right person, not only can you provide the most value, the most transformation, the most support, but you can price your services or your products the right way because you completely understand what they need and you're solving the right problems for them, and you're building upon what your client is doing and wants to do.
Amazing. You're both amazing. I could talk to you all night. Like, thank you both so much. It's been a true pleasure. Everybody, get Jefa in Training. I mean, get with Ashley, get with Paulette. They obviously know exactly what they're doing. So, like,
I have like a notebook full already. I feel like fire was just happening. I was just back here running logistics and being like, what? I'm sorry. Say that again. Also, I did write down, I don't believe in competition. Before you even said it, Angela, I wrote it down because like, wow, that just
Right.
blew my mind completely.
I mean, I just want to say everything that Paulette was talking about. It's all in here.
It's all here. And better and longer with exercises. Look how pretty they are.
All in here. So if you felt like she was speaking to your soul, like, oh, I need to figure that out. I need to figure out who I'm selling to, how I'm selling to them, like how to validate my idea through. There's tons of exercises from market research in the first chapter. So get the book. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
So inspiring. Thank you both. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you to the Word. This has been a wonderful way to kick off the weekend.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Yes, had so much fun.
Thank you. Please continue to follow the Word and Duende on our socials to stay up to date on all of our events. And please buy Jefa in Training from duendedistrict.com. Don't miss out. Oh my God, you guys are amazing. Have a wonderful evening and weekend, everyone. Bye.